All right, Colin. Jim Harbaugh and his staff completely transformed the Chargers from top to bottom.
Yes.
Making the playoffs in his first season as the coach. Now, as Los Angeles prepares for its second draft, Bolts GM Joe Ortiz feels like the team is in a good place.
You let the board come to you. You don't feel the pressure, so to speak, that, we got to address this player. We have to take this position. I just don't feel that way because of the way we have spread ourselves out in free agency and adding to the roster and really completing the roster.
So that's a very Ravens-esque philosophy of the draft, and that's where obviously he comes from, Joe Ortiz. That's the pipeline. We talked about it earlier. If Colston Loveland is there at 22, that's the pick. Tight end feels to me like the next chess piece for Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, they need more consistency at wide receiver, but if you elevate at tight end and running back, and those are two position groups. The Chargers need another tight end, back, and receiver. So if you elevate at running back and tight end, you may not need a number one receiver. They just need another receiver in-house. But I think Loveland is viewed as the play. Keep your eye on the North Carolina running back.
Maurice Hampton.
Keep your eye on him if he falls, because I think Dallas may nab him. But that is a classic. A little J.K. Dobbins where, run over you, run past you. I don't know if Harbaugh would move up in the draft, but Hampton is a really, really good player.
The Hampton comp I've gotten from teams, a faster, more explosive Joe Mixon. You talked about kind of an Adrian Peterson type power, but also speed. You can imagine him in that system. Also, Mecca Buka. I mean, Harbaugh saw him in the Big Ten, terrific receiver. He probably will be there at 22. I think any of those guys, they need more weapons, and you can address it at 22 and feel very good about it.
Yeah, I think the Chargers, I've talked a lot about the Chargers recently and, defended a lot of their success or lack of success within the last few years. And I definitely feel like they're definitely officially at this point where it's like, it's time to truly take that step forward. And when you look at how last season unfolded, like, Colin's like, oh, they need to get more consistent at wide receiver. And it's like, yeah, they need people who can reliably catch the ball. But I would love to see them be able to just make the game so much easier for Justin Herbert. Like, Justin Herbert threw less, but the throws that he was making were still so much more aggressive than you would want your quarterback to have to do day in and day out. And it's just because they lack such a short game passing attack, which is frustrating to see because there's so many moments in a game that unfolds. You can look at this against the Kansas City Chiefs. I guess honestly either their first or second game against them, and you're just looking like, just give me that nice easy 5-yard pass. Let me just see that. And it was tough to come by, and you can even see that Justin Herbert was at the top of the league in average depth of target. And you got to really get rid of Jameis Winston and Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Richardson and all those guys, because those guys are either didn't play the whole season, outliers, or they're just really letting the ball rip like at ridiculous lengths that it carries up everything else up. So it's, that data is a little bit more misleading. But you have Justin Herbert, really the only quarterback that played all 17 games in the top 7. And like I said, when you control for that, like he's essentially top 2, top 3. And I just want to see him to be able to just get some of these easier passes, these shorter passes. I mean, when you look at, this is all tight ends now. When you look at tight end production that they got, they're 18th. And I'm just like, when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, the idea that you're not going to have him, I mean, when we look at some of these other high-level passing games or very pass-centric offenses, we can see Travis Kelce, George Kittle, You know, we can see Sam Laporta, right? Like we see those receptions, we see those yards, we see the production there, and I'm kind of just like, how do you get this production so much more? You know, like how do you get just more high volume, high percentage throws to these big bodies? We've fallen so in love with wide receivers because of, you know, just the excitement that some of those plays can bring, and and kind of just the speed in which they do so. But I'm just like, you know, I made a similar video about the Green Bay Packers, and it's just kind of like, when you have a quarterback who you really believe in, to me, there's like no excuse for your tight end to just not be at the top of the list here. I'm just like, I just, you know, like how at this point is Travis Kelce getting more receptions? Just like, how's how is that happening right now? And you know, Zach Ertz with a rookie quarterback, you know, and he was huge in key moments. I actually, you know, Zach Ertz is really the best example here, because he's obviously older. He's obviously not like, you know, of a goated status, say, like a Travis Kelce. And I don't know. And especially if you watch some of those games, you can really see how important he was throughout those games. Had 7 touchdowns compared to 2, you know, with the Chargers. And I think if we even combine, let me see here, touchdowns, right, 2 and 0. So they had a whopping 2 touchdowns from their tight ends total. I mean, like, that's kind of crazy. I mean, that's not kind of crazy. That's 100% crazy. And it's just, you know, you gotta support your quarterback. You gotta support your quarterback, and it's when I look at teams that have lack of tight end production, it really does drive me a bit crazy, because to me, these are such no-brainers in the modern NFL. And it's arguably the best target for your quarterback to throw to, because it's just, you know, especially obviously if you have a shorthand tight end, like it's just a big body, big target, easier to make contested throws. Usually they're often like pretty quick throws. A lot of these, you know, throws end up really being bang bang plays, and it helps everyone get in rhythm. It helps facilitate the passing game. Like, it oftentimes will keep the clock going, because you're gonna, even if you don't get a ton of yards, like, you're still catching it, you know, going down. And again, a big body tight end often is going to ideally like kind of fall forward, get an extra couple 2-3 yards, whatever it may be. I mean, you know, just so you know what I'm talking about, like, here is like, we have Disley having 303 yards after catch, right? And has 50 receptions. You have Ladd, who's got 82 receptions and only an extra 90 you know, yards after catch. So it's just, you're just making things easier for your wide receiver, or for your quarterback, for the passing game as a whole. I mean, it's just, you know, it just makes things a lot more straightforward. Because even when you look at this percentage, when you do the percentage, 82 receptions to 112 targets, 50 receptions to 64 targets, that's a 5% increase. And that matters. 5% sounds small, but like 5%, I mean, we know this. Just if you just look at you know, completion percentage in like a very generic way, where it's like, what's better, 60% or 65%? We know that answer. So you're just making everyone's life easier. You're making everyone's life easier. You're going to be picking up more first downs. You're going to be getting more yards after catch. You're going to get some more momentum. You're going to minimize incompletions, stopping the clock, especially when you have such a great defense. Like, that's, you know, I mean, any team really wants to really kind of milk the clock here, but especially in the modern NFL, so time of possession really ends up being kind of such a big thing. But it's just, there's just nothing but positives, quite frankly. And that's one of the other things that I'm really looking for the Chargers, right? if they can do that. So I would be so much more interested in finding ways for them to get more production from that position than anything else. But when you look at this, right, tied for 76th, 98th, 116th, 150, I'm just like, man, Justin Herbert's your quarterback. Justin Herbert is your quarterback. That just can't be. That just can't be. No. I mean, look at the Eagles. Dallas Goedert, who only played 10 games, he had 42 receptions and 496 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's on a team that we know they run a ton, and they have A.J. Brown, Devontae, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts himself running around there. And yet this tight end on a stacked team where there's too many mouths to feed, and only played 10 games. Like, look at the production that he got. You know, like that kind of puts it in context, honestly. And so, yeah, that's where my focal point is right now. To me, it's so easy when you look at some of these teams and you see lack of tight end production. My mind's immediately like, get tight end involved, get this going. Because again, receptions for compared to targets, 42 receptions, 52 targets. Guys, I cannot tell you enough. That's why tight ends so often are the best security blanket for quarterbacks. There's a reason why Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes feed their tight ends, right? Like it's just the ultimate, just boom, hike, boom. You just get it. You just get it. And it just makes everything easier. It really, really does. And yet it still seems to be an overlooked aspect that I don't really hear a ton of people talk about, honestly. I'm kind of confused. Outside of like the really fancy, like dynamic and big personality tight ends like Kittle, like Travis Kelce, you rarely hear people talking about tight ends, the importance of them, the production about them. And for the life of me, I really don't understand why, but that's where I'm looking if I'm for the Chargers right now. Just make things easier for Justin Herbert. You have a great defense. You should have a great run game, great O-line. You definitely do want another wide receiver, but if I had to choose right now, I'm going tight end, and I am attacking that. You will dominate time of possession. You will be taking care of the ball, high percentage throws, high completion percentage. You still have a dynamic ability to stretch the field, run the ball, be physical. You know, you're going to be in a lot of these bully games against the Broncos, against the Chiefs, against the Raiders now. There's going to be so many moments when it's 3rd and 7, you know, and the clock is winding down and there's 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And it's just like you're going to find yourself in that situation. And like that's when you have like an iconic Kansas City Chiefs just 10-yard pass to Kelce, and you're just like, how is he that wide open? You know, it's just that's the power of a tight end. Or you throw that ball for 5 yards and you're able to bully yourself for another couple yards, first down. Like it's just football 101. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Chargers? Who would you like to see them draft? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.